Today on Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Penn State Nittany Lions, the team that went 11-2 overall in the 2022 season. This was an outstanding team in 2022, but they lost to both Michigan and Ohio State, and so being in the toughest division in college football this past season, this team was overshadowed a bit by how this team be in 2023 and whether or not this team could be even better in the 2023 season, as we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. This team was 11-2 overall, and I've said this a few times. I mean, this is an 11-2 team that quietly went 11-2. I mean, they were a big contender for the majority of the season, but Michigan and Ohio State being the top two teams in the Big Ten, they really overshadowed Penn State this past season. Penn State was just a great team, but I mean, I mentioned the Big Ten East this past season was the toughest division in college football. You had Michigan, Ohio State, obviously, and then Penn State, who was not far behind, also a big college football playoff contender, especially if they could have beaten either Michigan or Ohio State. I mean, if you could have won one of those games, this team would have been right in the thick of it, of the college football playoff conversation once it got to December. But started the season with a huge win against Purdue on the road. Turns out Purdue won the Big Ten West. I mean, it's just wild if you compare the Big Ten East and the Big Ten West from last season. Big Ten West was just a total mess. I mean, 5 teams were right up there in contention at the top. I mean, and you had Purdue come out on top as a 9-win team. I mean, still a solid team, but I mean, the Big Ten West was really nothing in comparison to the Big Ten East this past season. Beat Auburn on the road 41-12. That was a huge win. The loss to Michigan 41-17. Beat Minnesota the next week 45-17. Lost to Ohio State by 13. Kept that game close for a while, but Ohio State got the best of them in the end. Beat Indiana on the road 45-14. Several dominant wins here for Penn State. It was just those 2 losses just put a big blemish on this team last season. I mean, they beat Maryland 30-0. They beat Rutgers 55-10. Beat Michigan State 35-16, and even beat Utah in the Rose Bowl. Utah being a team that was coming off of their huge Pac-12 championship win over USC, and Penn State beat them by a couple of touchdowns. Won the game 35-21. So a great team last season, 11-2. But let's look forward to 2023 now. Your roster preview heading into this season. So Sean Clifford is gone. He's off to the NFL. But Drew Aller's taken over. He is a quarterback that has received a lot of praise as we have went into this offseason. He's expected to be a top-tier quarterback, and we'll see if that follows through. This is his first season as the full-time starter, so we'll see what he can do. But he was promising when he played last season, just over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick, 58% completion rate. So keep an eye on him. And, of course, Sean Clifford, many years with Penn State, and 2022 was a great season for him. 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, over 7 picks, 64% completion rate. So best of luck to him as he heads off to the NFL. But for the backfield, this team looks great. Nicholas Singleton coming back, Katron Allen coming back as well. So you got 2 running backs here combined for over 2,200 yards this past season, along with 24 touchdowns. Backfield looks great. Receiving core, you do lose a few here. So Parker Washington's gone. Mitchell Tinsley is gone. You do return your 3rd wideout in Keandre Lambert-Smith, who put up just over 380 yards this past season. The receiving core really didn't have any standouts, but it had multiple receivers over, say, 300 yards. And so there's some good depth in the receiving core, but you are losing 3 of your top 4 as far as receiving is concerned from last season. Brenton Strange has also gone the top tight end on this team. There's 1 on the offensive line, 2 defensive linemen, 3 in the secondary. So defensively, there are a few losses here, but I'm really not too concerned. I think the depth looks great. The recruiting is overall great for Penn State as well. So I could see this team being really good, but I also could see this team disappointing a bit in the case that the key players this team is losing do have a significant impact. But is this team a potential dark horse contender in 2023? I very much think. I mean, Penn State was a big dark horse, I think, last season. They were a dangerous team that, once again, those 2 losses just were brutal for them. I mean, Penn State would have easily won the Big Ten West last season if they were in there, but that's just not the way that it is right now. So this team is definitely a dark horse contender. Do not sleep on Penn State as we look forward to 2023. Your transfer portal and recruiting now. So Christian Velo, Quarterback, he's off to Pitt, but once again, this is Drew Aller's job, so not concerned really about losing him. Trey Potts, running back, is coming in from Minnesota, so you add some depth to the backfield there. You lose Devin Ford and Kevon Lee. Dante Cephas, receiver, is coming in from Kent State. Wouldn't be surprised if he had an immediate impact. I mean, he's already listed as a wide receiver 1 on the depth chart here for Penn State. Malik McClain, he is coming in as well from Florida State, receiver, and you're losing Jaden Dotton, receiver, and then Malik McNeil, offensive tackle. Otherwise, Jimmy Christ, he is off to Virginia, offensive tackle. You're losing Rodney McGraw, an edge rusher, off to Louisville. You bring in Alonzo Ford, defensive lineman from Old Dominion. You lose a few players here on defense. Fatorma Mulba, defensive lineman's off to West Virginia. Jamari Budden, along with Marquise Wilson and Jeffrey Davis Jr. Storm Duck, he's coming in, defensive back from North Carolina. So keep an eye on him as well. And the recruiting, I mean, this team has been great in recruiting this past offseason. This is a great class coming in. 13th nationally, 2nd in the Big Ten. Only Ohio State is over Penn State in the Big Ten. They got two 5-stars coming in, and then 18 4-stars. And with that, I've got this team at a 9 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. This is where I predict whether the future is bright for a team or not. I think for Penn State, this team should be a big contender in the Big Ten for years to come. The recruiting looks great. This team is usually up there. And, I mean, based on 2022 and the talent this team has coming back, potentially even a better quarterback, definitely. I mean, Sean Clifford was a great, consistent quarterback. I mean, he had his bad games, of course, but Drew Aller is a quarterback that definitely has a higher ceiling than, say, Sean Clifford did heading into last season. Drew Aller's got tremendous upside, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do. But that said, let's look at the schedule now as we look forward to 2023. So you got West Virginia in week 1. This is going to be a night game at home in week 1. What a fun way to start the season there. And then you got Delaware in week 2, Illinois on the road in week 3. Big road game there. Illinois is a team that should not be slept on as we look forward to the upcoming season. Then you got Iowa at home, Northwestern on the road. So you got your 3 crossover games into the Big Ten West all within the month of September, which honestly I'd say is a good thing, so you can focus on the games that really matter, your divisional matchups in the second half of the season. Then you got UMass on the 14th, and then Ohio State on the road, a huge matchup there in Columbus on the 21st. Indiana at home to finish in October. Then you got Maryland on the road. Don't want to sleep on that one either. I could see Maryland being a decent team. Michigan at home, Rutgers at home, and then Michigan State on the road to finish on the regular season. So looking at your first 4 games here. So West Virginia, I think you take care of them. Night game at home, it's going to be loud. I think that Penn State wins that game by a good 2 or 3 touchdowns there. So I'd say that's more of an easier win there for Penn State. Just West Virginia, they're kind of in a rebuild phase right now. A lot of uncertainty around them right now. So I'm going to favor Penn State for sure. Delaware, easy win. Illinois on the road. Now, Fighting Illini are a team that I could very well see winning the Big Ten West. Honestly, I really don't expect the West to be any better in 2023. I mean, just a messy division. And, I mean, you never knew who was the top team in that division last season just because of how close it was at the top. But Illinois, wouldn't be surprised to see them up there. I think that's a tough one. Maybe a trap game there. But I think Penn State gets it done. That's one I went back and forth on a little bit. So you want to take that one seriously. And then Iowa at home. I'm going to say you win this one as well. By a touchdown or slightly more. So you're 4-0 heading into late September, October. Northwestern, take care of them, no problem. Same with UMass. Ohio State, now as much as you might want to beat Ohio State, it's on the road in Columbus. I think Ohio State at the beginning of next season could be kind of a messy team. They've got some inexperience. The quarterback situation obviously is a question mark. Even though I do think they'll have their guy eventually, and it shouldn't be an issue. But Ohio State, I think they get it done there. It's a close game. I see Penn State really making that one close, but I'm going to favor Ohio State as of right now. And then Indiana, easy win as well. So you're 7-1 heading into November, and November is a huge month. You got Maryland on the road. I think Maryland's a team that could be within 8 or 9 wins. They could be. I mean, I think 8 or 9 is very much within reason for Maryland. So I do think that's a close game. I mean, they really put up some fights at the end of last season. You saw them against Ohio State, second to last week of the regular season, almost upset the Buckeyes there. And so, yeah, Maryland, tough game, but you get the win. Michigan at home, I mean, it's a home game. This one, I kind of wanted to pick Penn State. I really think Nittany Lions have got a chance here, but I'm going to favor Michigan. I just think the Wolverines, I mean, yeah, this is one that I'm pretty uncertain about. Pretty much a 50-50 game. I'm going to go with Michigan right now. But that's also because I think Penn State goes 10-2 this season. Even if you beat Michigan, I think you lose to either Illinois, Maryland, or Michigan State. I just think all three of those road games are all so dangerous. If you can win all three of them, I mean, you're in really good shape. But all three of those between Illinois, Maryland, and Michigan State, I mean, I think Penn State is better than those three teams, but going on the road could be dangerous. But then Rutgers to the second to last week of the regular season, easy win. And then Michigan State on the road. This one I went back and forth on too, but I'll favor Penn State for now. Michigan State, I got a few questions about them as well. So your prediction is 10-2 for 2023. It's more of the same, but Ohio State and Michigan, I think Penn State's really got a shot against Michigan. I just couldn't quite pick them yet. But your range for the upcoming season. So this is where we see the ceiling and the floor for each team. Once again, I was talking about earlier, I think this is a team with a high ceiling but a low floor. I think the floor is 7-5. If this team disappoints a bit, that's the worst that they could possibly be. I'm putting the ceiling at 12-0, even though that is, I think, pretty unlikely. I do think Penn State takes a loss at some point. As you can see on the right, the records in orange being 7-5 and 12-0 are pretty unlikely, but they're still somewhat possible. So I will put those in orange. The 8, 9, and 11 wins in yellow I do think are the next most likely. My prediction is 10-2 for this team, but I would more than likely this team will be between 8 and 11 wins. I think 9-11 if you want to narrow that down a bit more. But I've got this team at 10-2. I think a solid season for Penn State. We'll see if this team can get over the hump and beat either Michigan or Ohio State, and they can go undefeated otherwise. Yeah, this team is definitely a contender. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on Penn State. Appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.